I'm Shilpa Mudbi. Thank you for coming to listen to me. Um, the description on the schedule says nothing. It's Shilpa Mudbi who's going to be speaking about Hada Maya Girtava. That's in Kannada, actually it's in Bidri. My grandmother used to say this a lot to me. Hada Maya Giradu means the songs live in our body. And how she landed up saying this to me, I'll give you a little bit of context. My sister was pregnant and we were going to throw a baby shower for her. And just before the baby shower, Ajji remembered this song. Siriyata nire nariga uda sire mutaide ruda thumbyara hinga namana ranga yataka barada. Exquisite tune. And she sang it and we immediately started following her. And we all sang for the first time in our function since I've grown up at a function at home where there were more than 50 guests. My grandmother and myself, my mother, we all sang along. The meaning of this song was basically, where is Ranga? The Krishna or the Ranga is being referred, the child is being referred to as this god who is yet to come. And it just came out of nowhere. And I've heard my grandmother sing several songs since I was young. And I asked her, Yellirta you had, where do these songs reside? Like, how do they land up coming to you? And she said, Kelsa ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತಾ ಹಾಡು ಹಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಮೈಯಾಗ ಹೋಗ್ತಾವ ಹಾಡ ಮೈಯಾಗ ಇರ್ತಾವ, she said. Which means when we used to sing doing work, during rituals, it was a part and parcel of an activity, and hence these songs get embedded in our muscles. And this is true for most of the songs that Ajji sang. Ajji was an agrarian laborer, and she used to kali keelaka, which is de-weeding, harvesting, all of these things. She used to go on others' farms and work for these daily wages. So most of the things that she used to say and most of the things that she used to sing were quite similar. They had the same grammar, composed in the same language. Some of it was additional, like hada kattadu. She would say, the songs come to you in smaller chunks, like they are actually 4 lines that get passed down lifetimes together, grandmother, mother, daughter. They'll have these 4 lines, and then the rest of the song is something that is built immediately. It's that prose that just is so close to speech that it flows into song and becomes song. So for example, ಬಿಟ್ಟಿತ ಗಾಳಿ ಹಾರಿತ ರವ ಧೂಳಿ ಹ್ಯದರಿತ ನನ್ನ ಜೀವ ಹ್ಯಾಂತ ಚಂದರಾಮ ಚಿಂತ್ಯಾಗ ಬೆಳಗಾಗೆ. These are the 4 lines that she taught me. And when she used to sing it, depending on whether she was worried about whether I'm getting married or not, will I pass an exam or not, she would add that worry. Because the lines here, bittita ghali, the wind is blowing. Harita ravadhuli. Ravadhuli is that godhuli, when the bulls leave the village and come back in the evening, that dust that rises is what she's referring to. Wind is blowing, dust is rising. Hyadarita nana jiva. And my heart flutters. I fear, I have anxiety. Hyanta chandarama chintyaga belagage. There's so much beauty around me. And in my worries, it's become morning already. So those are the 4 lines that get passed on. Mother will teach daughter, daughter will teach her daughter. And based on who is facing this worry and what kind of worry has entered this person, that song would address that wound, that pain, that worry. So when Ajji passed away, I added 4 songs, 4 lines to it. Bitita ghali harita rava dhuli hyadarita nana jiva hyanta chandarama chintyaga belagage. Ajji nammava nee bitti hodi nanag hyanga. My grandmom, why would you leave me like this without a warning? ನೀ ಬಿಟ್ಟ ಹೋದ ಮ್ಯಾಗ ನನ್ನ ಹೊಟ್ಯಾಗ ಹಾಕಿ ಹೋದಿ ಹ್ಯಾಂಗ. What did you leave in my womb before you left? ಅಜ್ಜಿ ನಮ್ಮವ್ವ ನನಗ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿ ಹೋದಿ ನೀ ಹ್ಯಾಂಗ. ಅಜ್ಜಿ, how did you manage to leave me like this? ನೀ ಹೋದ ಮ್ಯಾಗ ನನ್ನ ಕೂಸಿಗೆ ನೀರು ಹಾಕುವರ ಯಾರ? Now who is going to bathe my child if not you? And of course, I've sung it differently, and every time I sing it, it comes out differently. And I refuse to write it because I want it to come sit in my body. I want this song to live in my body, just like songs lived in my grandmommy's body. There's also another reason that I imagine that this is true, that Prose lived in her body is, firstly, they didn't know how to write or read. They were illiterate women. They used to go to temples during a season like this in monsoon. Every temple bustles with bhajans. The North Karnataka region, this is true for Gulbarga, Bidar, Bijapur, Raichur. Shravana means bhajan time. You regroup the community in temples so you don't get frustrated waiting for what agrarian issue or boon or crisis may come. So during this time people sing. And they would hear bhajans like this, and they'd come back home and continue their back-breaking work. Not just as a laborer who goes out and works on somebody else's farm, just daily rituals of food and maintenance of the household was hard. For example, chakki, bisopada, the grinding stone songs. Now, grinding stone, depending on how thick this piece of rock is that you need to turn it, you need that much strength. And you had gunny bags of wheat or jowar or millet to grind. And this would take hours of work, and sometimes two women would sit across and do this in unison. And when you have back-breaking work like that, music seemed to make them stick with the work longer, concentrate better, forget about their physical pain. As another example, like say, pounding songs, you have kutto hard. So you have a waniki, which is, I don't know, a stick. Waniki andara? It's basically a big wooden stick, and it has like a brass bottom. So if you knock at if you pound the grain with it, the grain breaks. So they have a large waniki, and they have a pot, and you will chuck it in and you will pound, right? So you usually have two women standing across each other and pounding this grain back and forth. And that grain gets broken on rhythm because also there might be a third person who has to clear what's coming out, and it has to go back in. So it's 1, 2, clear, 1, 2, clear. You miss this rhythm, someone's fingers are going to go. If you miss this rhythm, if you have two different sticks, your sticks might clash and you might be ineffective. If you miss this rhythm, it's just harder for you to stick on with it because it's just like, you need rhythm. Because we have rhythm in our bodies. The heart is a source of rhythm. And somewhere when we stick to a rhythm and we work, like Ajji would say, mayagin bani kammi agtittu. Your shoulders are hurting, your hands are hurting, but when you start singing, it just heals you. It makes you feel like you can elevate yourself from this physical pain and move on to another plane where you're focused. I think an athlete would know this. You run long enough and that pain in your foot just disappears. How you stop registering it, it doesn't disappear, right? So songs did that, and it's that prose that I would like to talk to you about and how simple it used to be. It was influenced by, of course, songs written by Vachanakaras and Tattvapada guys around this region who wrote beautiful prose, wonderful metaphors, using the landscape in that region. And these women would be inspired by that, would take elements of that, would make their own songs, sometimes just to be able to voice their worries to each other. So why this prose is, this kind of poetry, this kind of, the lyrics, the words become so important to me is, they were sung for each other. They were not written, firstly, they were not composed or they're not sung for an audience. It was for each other. I will sing to you, you sing to me, and we will keep our energy going. We'll sync up our energies so we can last longer than what I could have done myself and you could have done on your own. And it was simple. I've heard even Ajji and Sharanavaji, these two women were friends. My grandmother and her friend were called, they had some funny names, the villagers would call them funny names, but also why they did so is they were a pair. They would be asked to go to the farm to work before everybody else. Why? Because they could be heard loud enough over the seasonal stream in the village, which would act as a factory siren, and other women would go to work on time. So even today, when I go to Mudbi, they'll say, "Ye, avva Gundavan mommagal halare." This is Gundava's granddaughter. Yen iddul nim ajji est hadtilu, ghodgod nola mag hadtilu. The stream was called Ghodgod Nala because there used to be round rocks over which this fast stream would flow, and it would sound like this. So it was called Ghodgod Nala. So those ladies would say, "We could hear your grandmother singing from the other side of Ghodgod Nala." And that's always got me thinking, what is a good voice, right? Today we hear someone like Shreya Ghoshal or these typically good Bollywood voices. And you assume that is a good voice for this reason. All of us have our reasons. My grandmother's voice was a good voice because it had the strength to travel from one place to another, where usually most voices probably got stuck halfway through that stream. And hers made it across, and that's why her voice was good. There weren't any ideas, not too many ideas of what was a good voice or bad voice in terms of timbre or how sexy does this voice sound. It was about how clear can you sound for how large an audience, for what distance, if you were a performer. But if you were someone who was sitting at home, art was not something not any less accessible to you. People sang at home and people sang for everything. Now I don't hear these roti badyo harder, where they make rotis and they make this percussion with their hand, tak 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 tak, and they other mag haadtara, they sing over it, and it's usually cursing the mother-in-laws and the husbands. Hyanta bhadya banduna nana maniga. What an idiot, came home, he's drunk, he's done this, he's done that. Get up, imagine getting up in the morning and you have those squeezy balls. I'm sure you've all seen them. They have a smile on them and you're supposed to squeeze the shit out of them so you feel better. Imagine using your palms to beat a roti stack that high. And you have, like man ki bhadas you have removed out of that roti. That roti still tastes good. And your frustrations are out. I've come back after 10 years of not beating any rotis to, again, reintroduce myself to roti making, only so that I can figure out where to fit these songs, because this is the conundrum a folk music researcher has. When I sing the same song, is it folk anymore? When I write it down and I make a Google Doc and I share it with 6 of you all saying, "You love this lyrics, you must sing this song, here you go." I've written it, so are you going to change it? Are you going to be able to make it your own? Are you going to be able to pass on this song with that elasticity to say this can be your song too? Because these are words that have probably been sung 50 years ago, 100 years ago, maybe 200 years ago. There is no sense of time. All of time kind of compresses in folk rituals, folk songs, folk dance. There is a step, there's a choreography that came in last year because of, I don't know, Hrithik Roshan, and 40 years ago because of Madhuri Dixit. And even, there are ways that things permeate and go into folk because it's not written down, because it's not recorded, because it's free for you to me and you to use and mess with and meddle with and turn a romantic song into satire and satire into, I don't know, war cry. So I hope it's been a little insightful. I have a very noisy head with the kind of material I work with. I just imbibe so many different experiences, and I've been able to tell you a few which make folk prose so special. It has a little bit of my grandmother, the music that I hold very close to me, that she gave to me, has her voice in it, has the voice of my community, has the voice of my village, it has the landscape of my village. In every way, even to the last breath. In a Chakki song, this is a song that they sing on a grinding stone, and if I sing it to you, you'll all be able to see the Chakki. ಈ ಬಾರಕತಾಂಗ್ಯರ ಕೂಡಿ ಗುರುಲಿಂಗ ಜಂಗಮ ಘಾಡೆ ಈ ಖಾಯ ಬಿಸಕಲ ಮಾಡಿ ಗುರುವಿನ ಪಾದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಡ್ಡ. And you know that it's actually to empty the lungs, empty the air in that diaphragm so you can suck in more air and last longer. And that nasal timbre that you can hear, that happens because you're trying to stabilize your voice without letting go too much air. So if I sang the same song like how Vasundhara Das would sing for a film, it would just not be the same song anymore. I've run out of breath. So the way we use our resonators based on where we come from, what community we come, what kind of work our body does, our voices have changed, our language has changed. And I'm, as a person who's collecting and also wanting to be performing, I feel the questions become very pertinent to ask as to why does a Chakki song to be why do I have to sing that song, Grinding Stone, now? Because I have a mixie and I don't have a use for it. So why am I singing it? Who am I addressing? Yes, I can always record it and build an archive and say, okay, yet another museum, guys. Go and put on your headphones and listen to it. I don't know how many of y'all would do it. But if I sat you down with me in front of a Chakki just for an experience, how many of y'all would sing my grandmummy's words, add your words, and be able to create the same space Ajji was able to create, is the question I will leave you with today. Thank you. Oh, I can say more, huh? Okay. Do you all want to sing something with me? One or two songs, huh? If you all sing, I'll sing. Because it can't be a solo performance, no? There is no solo in these folk forms, so there is a song I'd like. If you all sing with me, I'll sing. Okay, raise your hands. How many of y'all are going to sing? Thank you. Okay. Okay, this is a Yenni song. It's a very simple song, and it reminds you of a very simple concept. Reminds us that oil is a product that used to come to us with a lot of effort. Today you go to a supermarket, you'll pick up liters and cans of oil. Before, there had to be a ghana, I don't know what they call it in other languages, but there had to be a mill in your village which had to crush this oil out of an oil seed. Ratri alla, all night they will have cows or people do this, and then you'll have maybe that much of oil that will have to last you a month. So in the morning when you wake up, and you light a lamp that much, that much of a small lamp, that small, with very little oil, it's that daily sacrifice that you're making to remind ourselves that our life is so fragile. This oil is something that I'm sacrificing, that much of oil. It's so hard to come by, and still I will sacrifice that much to light a lamp to what I believe is God, what I believe is my ideology, what my life's truth is. I will light a lamp to that. So it's that song. I will sing it once, I'll explain it once, and then we sing it together. Okay? Okay. Deva devariganni, devara mariganni, ಮನಿ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮಿಗೆ ಮೊದಲೆಣ್ಣಿ ಹರ ಹರ ನಮ ಶಿವಗನೇ ಎಣ್ಣಿ ಹಾದಿ ಬಸವಗ ಎಣ್ಣಿ ಬೀದಿ ಬಸವಗ ಎಣ್ಣಿ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣ ಬಸವನಿಗೆ ಮೊದಲೆಣ್ಣಿ ಹರ ಹರ ನಮ ಶಿವಗನೇ ಎಣ್ಣಿ Deva Devariganni. To one God and the other and many others, I light this lamp. I give this oil. Devara Mariganni. To light the faces of these gods, I give this oil. Mani Lakshmige Modalanni. I light this lamp for the Lakshmi of the house. And all of us women, we are the Lakshmis of our house. So namige yanni adu. Mani Lakshmige Modalanni. Hara Hara Nam Shivagane yanni. And to Shiva, of course, you, I like this lamp. Hadi Basavaga yanni. To the bull on the street, I light a lamp. I give this oil. Bidi Hadi Basavaga yanni. Bidi Basavaga yanni. Kalyana Basavani Modalanni. You're talking about Basveshwara from Basu Kalyan. I light a lamp for him. And this is a Vachana, Lingayat, Veerashaivite belt. So you don't leave him out. It's also like a geotag to say, here we are. Kalyana Basavani Modalanni. Hara Hara Nam Shivagane yanni. Clear? Shall we sing together? Okay, first we'll warm up. This AC does things to the voice even I need to learn. Okay, these three things I did in the park for about 2.5 years, where we just invited people. And actually, I didn't even invite people. I just turned up in the park every day for 2 years and said, I'm singing songs, anyone can come and join me. And the first thing that we would do is warm up our face, because waking up at 6:30 and going to a park like Cubbon Park, where the floor is wet and you're sitting on it and singing, your face is quite rigid at that point. So we would do a little bit of lip rolls, like this, which would basically, I'm not spitting into the mic, okay? Yeah, it's a lip roll and then a tongue roll. Okay? Let's do that, and you yourself will know how rigid your face has gotten because you haven't been shouting and screaming and having too much fun. So, lip roll. Try it, guys. Okay, then the tongue roll. Most people haven't stopped talking, so the tongue will be easier than the cheek. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I talk like this because I'm so stoic and I'm so serious and I work for the corporates and I don't really want to show too much emotion on my face. So that's what's happened to your face. Don't worry, you can revive those cheek muscles. And the last one is, this letter Sashahalaksha Gnya. Gnya? You can say Gnya? Gnya. Ad illin bartade. It comes from your larynx. It's one of the lowest consonants that are placed in your body so low. Below that, there's only her. Say her. Adu hottagin bartadu. Like feel your stomach. Her. Taragin bartadu. Nga. Yeah. So I want you to open your mouth comfortably wide. And now I want you to crunch that muscle. So you're going to go. Anga, anga, anga. Don't move your lips. Anga, 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 anga. You have practiced. Vikram, don't cheat. And double time that. Good. Now, Gigi Pada. I'll put this on. Thank you. Okay. Check. Deva Devariganni. Devara Mariganni. Mani Lakshmige Modalanni. Hara Hara Nama Shivagane yanni. Hara Hara Nama Shivagane yanni. Idu warm up agilri. ಎಲ್ಲ ಥಂಡ ಹಾಡ್ಲತ್ತೀರಿ, ದೇವ್ರು ಮುಚ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಮಕ್ಕೋತಾ ನಟ್ಟೆ. For those who didn't understand that, the God will go and sleep. You have to wake him up by lighting the lamp, not put him to sleep. Okay, so we'll do one more thing. Giyaga, ga giyaga, 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 ga giyaga, giya giya giyaga. Giya, 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 giyaga. Giya, giya, giyaga. Barli. Giya, 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 giyaga. Gia, 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 Gia. Gia, 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 Ga. ದೇವ ದೇವರಿಗೆಣ್ಣಿ ದೇವ ದೇವರಿಗೆಣ್ಣಿ ದೇವರ ಮಾರಿಗೆಣ್ಣಿ ಮನಿ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮಿಗೆ ಮೊದಲೆಣ್ಣಿ ಹರ ಹರ ನಮ ಶಿವಗನೇ ಎಣ್ಣಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಅಜ್ಜಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇಂಥ ಬೈತೇಳು ನಿಮಗ. I'm glad you all were all able to sing along, and hopefully you'll carry some part of that song home, if not everything, and remember it at the next oiling ritual. Most of our houses do have some sort of oiling ritual when kids are born, when we're getting married, for the bride, for the groom. So I'm hoping you'll be like, I know a oiling song, and sing it there. Thank you so much. About something that you can do. Urban Folk Project is a company that we put together, and we have content on Instagram and YouTube. So there are 10 songs there that I uploaded during lockdown because we didn't really know who we're going to see next, and my park sessions abruptly stopped. That's when I stopped working. I'm doing my carbon park sessions when the COVID lockdown happened. And I put together 10 of my favorite Ajji's songs, Ajji's whatever songs that Ajji had taught me, out of which I uploaded 10 of them. Out of which there was this one song that had a very mixed review. It was called Bagila Munda Rangole. It goes like this. Bagila Munda Rangole, Bagi Hakuta Nana Taradalle, Kanasa Bidita Mata Nanagonde. ಹೇಗೆ ಮರಿಯಾಗಲಿ ನನ್ನ ತವರಿಗೆ ತವರೂರ ನೋಡಲು ಬಂದೆ ತಾಯಿ ನೆನಪಾಗಿ ಕಣ್ಣೀರ ತಂದೆ. This is a very popular song, and I assume it's not from very long ago. It's probably within 100 years ago where this whole culture of melodrama started. So this whole song is about how mother has passed away, and hence that taur money, the mother's home, is not mother's home anymore because you are a woman. So she's getting up in the morning and she's drawing a rangoli, and she's drawing this rangoli and she's remembering her mother's house. Every day she draws that rangoli differently, but the thought is the same. And this song had so much pathos in it. I sang it because I liked this tune, and Ajji taught me just when I told her, Ajji, I'm uploading your songs and people loved them. And she was like, okay, I remember this one song. And she taught me this song. And I sang it. I broke down the lyrics as usual. That's the format most of these songs are in. And a lot of women wrote me ton of messages saying that I'm in Switzerland, I'm in US, I'm in the UK, I'm listening to this song, I'm missing my mother, I'm crying. Thank you so much for bringing my mother's memories back to me. On this particular day, as soon as I heard your song. And I was like, yeah, okay, wonderful. But there was something else that was happening. The song also had started to sound like a Kannada serial. There is one verse in, there is this one verse in the song which says, ಅಣ್ಣನ ಮಡದಿ ಬಲು ಖೋಡೆ ಕಣ್ಣು ಸನ್ನಿ ಮಾಡಿದಳೆನ್ನ ನೋಡೆ, which basically means my brother's wife, she's so mean, she made eyes at me when I came home. And it was cute. When I picked it up, I was like, yeah, I like this line. I sang it. Then it started to bother me as to how words are so, what do you say? They have the potential to kind of introduce that kind of melodrama in your life, even if you don't have it at that point. So there is this woman on woman. ಹೆಣ್ಣೆ ಹೆಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಹೆಣ್ಣೆ ಹೆಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ದ್ವೇಷ ಅಲ್ಲ, enemy, ವೈರಿ, ಹೆಣ್ಣೆ ಹೆಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ವೈರಿ. It's a common proverb to say women are women's enemies, and that is what this song is kind of saying. And every time people said, ನನಗದು ಹಾಡು ತುಂಬ ಇಷ್ಟ ರೀ, ನೀವು ಅದೇ ಹಾಡು ಹಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ನಾನು ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಅಂತಿದ್ದೆ. Like, no. You know what I have a problem with? You know that whiny line? That's where I got stuck. And then I realized all folk has to go through this screening, right? Because not everything old is gold. Of course not, it isn't. Sometimes it has to go through this screen, and at which point you say, I'm sorry, this line I'm not going to sing. I'm just going to give this one up. I'm going to give this one a pass, and I'm going to make my own 4 lines. There are several songs like this. Even in this song, it's a kutto had. ನನ್ನ ಫೇವ್ರೆಟ್ ಹಾಡು ಅಜ್ಜಿ ಹಾಡು. ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರ್ಮಪೂರ ವಚನ, ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರ್ಮಪೂರ ವಚನ, ಚಾಂಗಟಿ ಹಾದಿಲಿ ಚೆಂಡ ಮಾಯಿನ ಮರ, ಗುಂಡದ ಸೂತ ಗಿಳಿ ಹಿಂಡ ತಾಯವ್ವ, ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರ್ಮಪೂರ ವಚನ. Come sister, let's sing the true word. And she talks about this long journey to this place called Chengti. And if you're from Mudbi or villages around our region, you know, you go to a Chengti because in your own village as a Dalit person, you do not get access into the temple to get your child's head tonsured. So you go to Ismail Khadri in Chengti so you can feed everyone biryani, do your own rituals as a Dalit person and come back home to Mudbi. So Chengati Hadyaga, on the way to Chengati, I see Mavin Mara, I see mango trees that look like marigold flowers. On the way to Chengati, I see these flower-like trees, and there is a pond, and around this pond, there are these parrots. These parrots are feeding and living around this pond, and I hope someday that you become that pond for your daughters-in-law. ಗೋಂಡದ ಸೂತ ಗಿಳಿ ಹಿಂಡ ತಾಯವ್ವ, ನಾರಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಸೂತ ಸ್ವಸದ್ಯಾರ ಹಡದವ್ವ, ಬಾರೆ ನನ್ನ ರತನ ಭರ್ಮಪೂರ ವಚನ. So there are these 2 women who are singing this song to each other, describing their journey of Chengati. And there is this one line at the end. I never sing this line when I'm performing it, but I'm explaining as to why we have to push folk music through the screen, especially if you want to be a medium for it to pass through, not necessarily be a critic or an academician and say, okay, this is right, wrong. Illa, na decide martini ನನ್ನ ಮೈಯಾಗ ಏನಿರ್ತದೆ. Like I will decide what will go through my body or not. And this is that line. ಹೆಣ್ಣ ನೀ ಹಡಿಬ್ಯಾಡ, ಬಡವ ನೀ ಕೊಡಬ್ಯಾಡ. Don't give birth to a girl child and don't marry her to a poor man. ಹೆಣ್ಣ ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ಅಳಬ್ಯಾಡ ತಂಗ್ಯವ್ವ. Now, mind you, I'm not negating the pain that my grandmother probably felt or her friend felt when they sang these lines. This was their reality. But it's not mine. And hence, there is a time that you have to say, aha, idu hadalna. Idu nan reality alla. I'm not going to keep this line for keepsakes. And that happens in a song that's been written down. Of course, we need classical music. Of course, we need music that gets written down. The grammar probably changes very little, evolves over the years. That's also not stagnant. But in folk, it lives with us at the pace of our heartbeats, at the pace of our cities, our lives. And it needs to change at the pace that we are living, really. Because there's so much being hijacked from us. Ivattu Shivaji nammava, nalige innobbardu. Ivattu Rama nammava, nalige innobbardu. So ultimately, the words that come from our families, our communities, our women, is basically our past being recorded in their voices, because that past has not been recorded elsewhere. So that prose, poetry also comes with their harsh realities, and I salute them for having lived those lives and having given these lines to us. And as artists, as common people who want to put these songs through us, you know, ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈ ಒಳಗಿಂದ ಹೋಗೋ ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಯಾರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೋ, which of us want our folk to speak through us, they must ask these questions as to what our reality is today. Aitu, ಆ ಚಕ್ಕಿ ಇತ್ತು, there was a grinding stone and beautiful songs were sung, but let's not negate the fact that none of us want a chakki in our kitchen. I am not grinding ever in my life. So that mixie is really loud. I cannot sing over the mixie. Those are the questions we must ask. Ee hada yaak ulibekandra? Does this song have something to say to me? Does this song have something to say to you? Does it have enough value for me to carry it all my life, in my head or in my body. And then, yeah, I mean, I have that privilege. Most of the songs that Ajji liked, I know what her choice was. She loved this kind of music. ಹೆಣ್ಮಗಳಿಗೆ ತೊಂದರೆ ಆಗ್ತಿರ್ತದ, ಅತ್ತಿ ಖರಾಬ್ ಇರ್ತಾಳ, ಹಾರಿಬಲ್ ಮದರ್ ಇನ್ ಲಾ, ಪುವರ್ ಡಾಟರ್ ಇನ್ ಲಾ, ವಾಕ್ಸ್ hills. Most of the stories she used to say were about that, about giving birth, about miscarriages, about just. And I used to be like, as a young person, it used to bog me down. I'm like, I'd rather open my and it'd be like, this is getting tedious. But now that she's gone, like I was telling Vikram today, I'm thinking, why didn't I just sit down and not stop listening to her? There was so much of my past has just gone vanishing. A whole archive collapsed for me last year. The effects of which I'm feeling now. With that, let's sing one last song. It's about life and death. I'm hoping we'll all sing it together, but it's okay if you all don't sing it. Hum it. At least gunu 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 madaduru naditu. Okay? I'll sing the song, I'll explain it, and then how many ever people want to join, you can join. ಅಡಕಲ ಮಡಕಲ ಆಗಿ ಹುಡಕುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಭಟ್ಟಗಡಗಿ ಒಡೆಯುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಹುಡಕಾಡಿ ಹುಟ್ಟ ಮುರಿಯುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಸೂಅಕ್ಕನಾರೆ ಉಟ್ಟ ಸಿರಿ ಎಳಕೊಂಡ, ತೊಟ್ಟ ಕುಬಸ ಕಳಕೊಂಡ, ಆಡಿ ತಪ್ಪವ ನುಡವಿ ಖಳವಿದಾನೆ, ಸೂಅಕ್ಕನಾರೆ ಧರಿಯೋಳು ಚಿಂಚೋಳಿ ವಾಸಿಸಿದನ ಬಳಿ, ಮಲ್ಲಿಕಾರ್ಜುನ ಎಡಿಯ ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ, ಸೂಅಕ್ಕನಾರೆ. Meaning, adakala madakala agi hudakutane. This is about a soul after the body is gone, and the soul sits up and is confused and is adakala madakala agi confused agi hudakutane, is looking. Bhatta gadagi vadayutane. It is that time where the priest breaks the pot for that last rite. ಆಡಿ ತಪ್ಪ ನೋಡ್ವಿ ಧರಿಯೋಳು ಅಡಕಲ ಮಡಕಲ ಆಗಿ ಹುಡಕುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಭಟ್ಟಗಡಗಿ ಒಡೆಯುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಹುಡಕಾಡಿ ಹುಟ್ಟ ಮುರಿಯುತ್ತಾನೆ. He looks for some grass, takes it, breaks it, lights it. So akkanare, here we are telling the soul, you just breathe, you just relax. We are calming the soul down when the body is leaving this world. Utta siri yalakonda, totta kubsa kalakonda. This is that process where before you're buried, you're made naked, your clothes are given away, they're burnt and things like that. So utta siri, the sari I wore is lost, my God. And this blouse I have lost too. Adi tappava nudvi khalavidane. One small drum you beat and you sent me away from this world. So akkanare, just relax. Dhariyolu chincholi vasasidana bali. There is a dhari, there is a gully, there is a street in Chincholi, it's a place. Vasasiddhana bali, there is a dasa, there is a man who lives there. In his name we bring offerings to that Mallikarjuna god. So it's like saying in spirit also, I'm here with my ancestors giving offerings to this god. So akkanare. So I will sing this song again and I'll make it easy for y'all. Y'all just say, so akkanare. Say it with me. So akkanare. And when you're saying so, it's really about, it's a sigh. It's a very loud sigh. So know when to come in. ಅಡಕಲೆ ಮಡಕಲೆ ಆಗಿ ಹೂಡಕುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಭಟ್ಟಗಡಗಿ ಒಡೆಯುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಹುಡಕಾಡಿ ಹುಟ್ಟ ಮುರಿಯುತ್ತಾನೆ, ಸೋ ಅಕ್ಕನಾರೆ ಉಟ್ಟ ಸಿರಿ ಯಾಳ ಕೊಂಡ ತೊಟ್ಟ ಕುಬಸ ಕಾಳ ಕೊಂಡ ಆಡಿ ತಪ್ಪವ ನುಡವಿ ಕಳುವಿದಾನೆ ಸೋ ಅಕ್ಕನಾರೆ ಧಾರಿಯೋಳು ಚಿಂಚೋಳಿ ದಾಸ ಸಿದನ ಬಳಿ ಮಲ್ಲಿಕಾರ್ಜುನ ಎಡಿಯ ಮಾಡಿದಾನೆ ಸೋ ಅಕ್ಕನಾರೆ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಫಾರ್ ಸಿಂಗಿಂಗ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಫಾರ್ ಜಾಯ್ನಿಂಗ್. ಇನ್ನೂ ಟೈಮ್ ಅದಾರಿ? No, I think I'll end here. Thank you. Yeah,
Really wonderful. I didn't come expecting this, but
there was no description, so you couldn't have known.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really wonderful that we are having someone, so energetic. The energy that you're giving, and the I don't know, the authenticity of what you're doing is really commendable. I loved it. I just have a small question. When you've been working on this project, how difficult has it been to actually reach out to people and collect these songs, because most of it is like gone. Every time we lose an elder in our house, we lose a whole archive, as you mentioned. Okay. So have you has this been from your entire community, or is it just from your grandmother, or like, what is your
I'm glad you asked. So most of these songs that I know and I sang for you all today are my grandmother's songs. The idea was to adopt every other grandmother there was with songs to do this. And it is difficult because first when we started off wanting to build an archive and want to document. And the camera is this kharab cheese, You take it into a space and then people's voices, people's ideas, what they're saying, sab kuch change hota. Like, I found it really taxing after a point because I felt like the camera became a personality in the room who they were fascinated about, and I couldn't. So in a year or so of documenting, we just kind of re-looked at what we wanted to do with this music, because it was also another journey that we had started trying to look at all the other archives in this region. And there are a ton of archives. And archives somehow have this knack of becoming dead very quickly. Just people stop accessing it or keeping it alive. And honestly, I didn't want to do that. So after a point, what we started doing is, we just went into houses, like Ajji's, most of the songs that Ajji taught me, and she would say, idu Sharna gottu, idu Karyavin gottu, iki Maltilla aki gottada. So whenever I used to go to their villages, because now I've moved from Bangalore to Kulburgi, I live there now, I started just asking, Ajji heldulu nimagada hada gottada. So the most challenging thing is to figure out how to address this community. What do they really want to see in a visitor who wants songs? So you can't just be like, hi, yeah, thank you, okay, now that I've come, can I switch on my recorder? Like, can I record this song? It just doesn't work. So you have to wait for them to feed you and pamper you, or however they want to treat you, they'll treat you. Maybe also say, illu mani vara barbadra alle kurri. That also happens. Agtuda? Adella admaga, after all of that, I usually say, I know this song. It really helps to be able to sing. And then when you sing in their language, they'll be like, arre, bhari hala nodiki. Bengaluru dag irtaಳಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡ. And then slowly they'll be like, oh, you know a song? I know a song. And I love that. Then after some time, 3 hours have passed and I've got so much material, but I haven't written down a word, and I'm like, I'm not going to remember this. So it's like that. I think I've let my instinct guide me through this process. Nangidu hada bhari ishta aitu, then I'll be like, whoever's house it is, I'll be like, I'm not leaving till you give me the song. I'm writing it down, you're explaining to me, what is this word? I mean, I do this also once in a while, when it really, like, there is a song that I just feel attracted to. And this has happened mostly with songs that don't sound conventional. They have notes in them that a harmonium can't produce. They predate the harmonium, or they predate an instrument. So they just sound like they're esoteric. They're in places that I have never navigated. Those are the kind of songs that I just really feel like. So it's based on instinct. If I had to do this for a grant, guys, it would be very hard. because it's a different skill altogether for me to sit down, make documents and write it, rather than say, okay, I'm just going to base it out of my ear. And for a year, Adi and I basically did that. We just used to drive around in Mudbi and this region, and we'd follow our ear. Wherever the music played, we'd just go. So I think that is required in this field, to say, I'm just going to let my instincts follow me, if you're not actually doing your PhD. That's different.
Thank you.
ಮೇಡಮ್, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜಾನಪದ ಹಾಡುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಕೋರಸ್ ಇರ್ತವೆ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ.
ಖರೆ.
ಅದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕೃಷಿ ಕಾರ್ಮಿಕರು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ
ಹೌದು.
ಬಹಳ ಹುಮ್ಮಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ.
ಹೌದು.
ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಬ್ರು ಹಾಡರ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಊರ್ನವರೆಲ್ಲ ಕೆಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ.
ಹೌದು, ಖರೆ.
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಎಂಟರ್ಟೈನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಹಾಗೆ ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರು, ಆದ್ರೆ ಹಾಡು ನೀವು ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇದಾಗ ಹಾಡ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ, ಬಹಳ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಯಾಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ?
ನಂಗೆ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂಜಿಕೆ ಆಗಲತ್ತ ಸರ್. ದ ಮೇನ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್, quite often you become like this face or voice of something, and I fear that because I'm still understanding what my folk roots are. And I was just telling someone this, Vikram, this, that quite often as artists, when we start performing, that becomes our identity, and I fear that happening to me. I want to be in a space where I'm listening more and singing less, I'm performing less and collecting more. And I want someone to say, I'll give you money to listen.
ಜನಪದ
Guys, anyone with money?
ಜನಪದ ಹಾಡುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಾಯಿಂದ ಬಾಯಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿರೋ ಅಂತವು. ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಳ್ಳಿನಲ್ಲೂ ಇದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನ ಈಗ
ತೆಗಿಯೋದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನಾಕಬೇಕು.
ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಗುಲ್ಬರ್ಗ ಭಾವುಕತೆನೇ ಬೇರೆ, ಹಳೆ ಮೈಸೂರಿನಲ್ಲೇ ಒಂಥರ ಸೋಪಾನೆ ಪದಗಳು. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆ ಹಳೆ ಮೈಸೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಸೋಪಾನೆ ಪದಗಳಿದಾವೆ.
Sir, I'm actually glad you brought this up. I feel like that is one more thing. I have collected music, and it's made it easier for me to collect music from my community. The fact that I'm a Madiga girl in a Madiga community collecting songs that the Madigas sang, yaude. ಈಗ ನಾ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೋಸ್ಟಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ನಾಗ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನ ಕಲಿತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ದಟ್ ಮೈಟ್ ಬಿ ಪಾಸಿಬಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ಮೀ ಟು ಗೋ ಅಂಡ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ಯಕ್ಷಗಾನ, ಬಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಎಂಬಾಡಿ the same way? Will it be a same kind of embodied practice? Is something that I don't know. I'm very confident about. So yes, there is folk everywhere, but we must collect our own folk first.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿ.
Okay, hi. Firstly, hi. So firstly, I've never heard such an exquisite voice ever.
Oh, thank you.
And secondly, it's not just the way you delivered all of the songs right now, but it's also how you deliver the entire content. I'm just amazed. Like, if it was anyone else, it would have got categorized under grandma's bedtime tales or something. But in your case, I was glued the whole time. Like everything you spoke about. And I want to ask you though, the way you sing now, is this how you sang even in your childhood when you first learned? And did you undergo any sort of training in between?
I grew up in Bangalore. I went to Sophia High School, and I was in the school choir for 10 years of my life. So I used to come back home, and I used to sing all the Christmas carols during Christmas when, "Oh come, holy faithful John." Ikin hada ella vai ante irtava. Ajji would say. Ajji would be like, "Why are all of your songs like you're crying? Like, where's the joy in your song?" And for her, because she didn't understand the lyrics, she didn't care much for the fact that I was saying joy 20 times in a song. So I think there has been a huge change in how I've been singing, because I came from a very head voice. I sang with a very soft timbre. And when I started singing with Ajji, that was almost in college when I was 22, 23, is when I started actively singing with her at home. And I realized that I was messing with my voice. My throat was getting I was getting nodules. It's just like my body had programmed itself to use voice in a certain way. And now I was going back to using it in a way that people used it 2 generations ago, and my body really struggled with it. I had to go into voice rest. There was 3 months of no speaking. I would walk around with this notepad, go to the auto guy and say, "Right, Sadashinagara." I've actually done this. But that mainly, it deepened my understanding of voice, of how we use our resonators, how we get programmed, how our voice is our voice. How does that fingerprint or that get formed in our bodies, right? So once that change has happened, now I can still sing the way I used to sing, but I just feel like my intent is more to mimic rather than, it's not my voice anymore. In my workshops tomorrow, if you come, I have something called to understand our vocal identity, right? A lot of us, if you hear mainstream singers today, they have a singing voice and they have a speaking voice, which has different timbre. The way they use their voice is very different. I think you would have noticed this. But if you hear a folk artist, they'll be speaking and they'll go like, "Yen maalattide Shilpa." This is just my grandmother. I'm imitating my grandmother. She'll probably call out from far, "Yen maalattide ba ikkada Shilpa ba re ba ikkada ba." And once I come, or if I come late, she'll be like, "Bandol nod kai biskota." It's her speaking voice, and it has slipped into tune very seamlessly. It is not the most melodious voice, but it's in a way pitch perfect, because it's being used in a different way. So I think that has also deepened my understanding, because my own body went through that change to reach a different vocal identity, which is now mine. I'm more comfortable singing this way than any other way. Did that answer? Yeah.
Definitely did.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Oh, yay. Any more questions?
Hello.
Yardo? ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೀ ಚಿಂತಿ ಮೈಕೈ ಬ್ಯಾನಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಹೋಗ್ರಿ ಸಾರಿ ಐ ಡಿಡ್ಂಟ್ ಮೀನ್ ದಟ್ ಬಟ್ ಹಾಡಕ್ಕಿಂತ it's not so much about performance is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm so sorry, she had a question. Sorry, ನೀವು ಎದ್ದು ನಿಂತೀರಿ. Please ask a question. I'll continue later.
Hello. Yeah, I had two parts of questions and one. Okay, sorry. Okay.
See, if you didn't let me talk for so long, they would have more time. Okay, fine.
Okay. How do you pass this to next generation is the one question, and what people sitting here should do to take this and collect their folk songs. That's the one. And one just
Okay.
one request that Nize Nizere Bala is the one line of, because
ಅವರು ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಹಾಡ್ ಅನ್ಲತ್ತೀರಿ, ನೀವು ಮೊಕೊಣೋ ಹಾಡ್ ಹಾಡ್ಲತ್ತೀರಿ. ಲೈಕ್ ಹಂಗೆ ನಾವು ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ತಗೊಳಕ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲತ್ತೀವಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ? ಓಕೆ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಐ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್. ಹೌ ಡು ವಿ ಪಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಆನ್? ಫಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್, ಡು ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಪಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಆನ್? Songs that I feel like are worth passing on, you just sing. There is a artist who plays the chaudki, and we went to collect music from her, and I kept using this word, illa it hengara ಮಾಡಿ ಉಳಿಸಬೇಕು chaudki. So I had put up a video of hers on my Instagram, on my Facebook page or YouTube, and she had seen it and she'd become very upset with it. She said, "You didn't ask me." And I realized, I'm really sorry I didn't ask you, but I put it up online because I want people to see the chaudki, and I want to save this kind of. So she turned around and she said, "Nee dhoddake alla na dhoddike alla kalikinta. You and me are not big enough, are as big as the art form. The art form will continue to live. If you really care about it, then mayak hako, like learn it. Learn it and sing it. Don't talk this whole preserve and save, and don't talk that language." She said to my face. It was a slap in my face, but I bloody needed it. Because a lot of us are on this way of, we must preserve, we must sing, ಇದನ್ನ ಹಂಚಬೇಕು, ನಾವು ಏನಾರ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಏನೂ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮೈಯಾಗ ಹಾಕೋರಿ. So for the people sitting here, if you want to collect your own folk culture, ritual, song, just, not all of us are from the cities, right? Just go back to where that was. What is your village jatre? Who's that god who comes out of her temple or his temple, does a procession? What is his or her story? How is your community connected to the myth of this story? That's where I always come from when I come to understand a community. Oh, this is a different community. They perform this differently, and that is reflected in this myth this way. So it always starts with stories. Yes, there is songs, and songs kind of have more mobility in the folk space than rituals. And quite often when I collect songs, I feel like this song is not necessarily a Madiga song, this is a working song. This is not necessarily about leather treating, it's about women just sitting under a tree and having a picnic. Or this is, we're giving sex education to the girl who's getting married and sending her away. It's either one of these. So, if the idea is to pass it on, in your own family, has your grandmother's song or grandmother's favorite piece of prose passed on is probably a place where we should start. And in terms of why I continue to do it, is I generally feel, I felt very disenfranchised as an artist as to what I was practicing. Yes, I was in theater, but I didn't know why I was doing this particular theater, working with this director. So to answer those questions, I just wanted to know what it means to have this Dalit, Madiga, socialite background and not actually appear in your convent upbringing, foreign return, So there were two different worlds I was trying to meet, and for me, folk is that way to kind of bridge these two worlds for me. Did I answer that question? Did I make a mess of it? Thank you. Aitri? Okay. Thank you everyone. Tomorrow I have a workshop, it's 3 hours long. It's not really a workshop, it's like this. Now, bhajani madari. They're songs of Shravana. If I was in Gulbarga and didn't have to be at the Bangalore Poetry Festival, I would be in a temple right now in Gulbarga, eating free food and singing something with somebody. So to bring that joy to the crowd here, I think tomorrow we have a 2-hour session starting at 2 o'clock. We will learn 2 to 3 songs. I will give you all the lyrics so you all can go home and do bhajani. Okay? Super. Thank you.